So she decides to call Isana out and have her realize her feelings for Mizuto. They show her a video of Mizuto sleeping, and it somehow excites her. So she realizes that she does indeed want to be more than friends with Mizuto. However, Isana does not know the first thing about love, and Yume sees a bit of herself in Isana, because she was also once like her. When she fell in love with Mizuto, she did not know how to approach him. She struggled hard with how she was going to confess. But then she ended up putting it into writing and standing there while he read her love letter. Anyway, Minami and Yume decide to observe Mizuto's demeanor around Isana, and they see very clearly that Mizuto is in no way attracted to Isana in that way. So, they make Isana rub her dings on him to attract him. But that also doesn't work. Then they doll up Isana and send her back out, but Mizuto just teases her in a friendly way. At the end of it all, Isana realizes that she's fallen for Mizuto, and they push her to ask him out. She arranges a meeting point, and Yume battles with her feelings because she's not sure if she's okay with it. Minami thinks Mizuto will accept Isana's feelings because he enjoys spending time with her. And also, she believes Mizuto would only date someone if he loved the person dearly. The next day, Isana confesses to Mizuto her feelings, but he rejects them gently. Although he does acknowledge that they would make a great couple, and he does like Isana, his only problem is that someone else has reserved a space in his heart. And that someone, Yume, cries because she can't believe Mizuto would forsake a new chapter of his life to make sure their love doesn't die, even though they are now siblings. In any case, Isana and Mizuto go back to being really close friends. And Isana admits that it's easier to be Mizuto's friend now that there's no love tension in the way. Then, she has to visit him at home to look at his book collection. But before she goes, Minami and Yume decide to help change her fashion style. They find it hard to pick an outfit because most of what they choose makes Isana's dings look even dingier. Excuse my vocabulary. Anyway, they finally agree on an outfit, and Yume worries that the outfit makes Isana look more attractive. At her house, she decides to chaperone Isana and Mizuto in their room and watches as the two act casually toward each other. So, she gets jealous and asks Isana if her feelings for Mizuto remain. And Isana confirms that she never stopped liking Mizuto. She's just grateful to have him as her friend. Then, Isana leaves to use the bathroom, and Yume returns to tease Mizuto. She asks him to put her socks back on because he did the same with Isana, and she gets turned on just by his touch. I hope this video doesn't have any issues. FBI, open up! Anyway, Isana calls Mizuto to help escape his parents, who are asking her a bunch of questions, and she walks home with him. She tells him she still hasn't fully recovered from his rejection and will require a lot of Mizuto's attention. Then, Mizuto ponders what things might have looked like with Yume if they had just remained friends the way he is friends with Isana right now. In the past, Mizuto invited Yume to his room while they were still dating. He worked up the resolve to do it with her, but he just couldn't. And Yume, well, Yume also came to his house with the resolve to do Mizuto, but he kept gaslighting her at every turn. Hold up, aren't these kids supposed to be in middle school? Anyway, they end up spending the whole time reading a book on his bed. Fun fact, the book has an anime, and I bet you'd enjoy every moment of it. So, go watch I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. Okay, the commercial is over. After they both missed out on their chance to, do it, Mizuto walked Yume home and beat himself up afterwards. Then, they moved on to their senior year in middle school and ended up in different classes. At first, they promised to spend Christmas and Valentine's together, but Yume started making a lot of friends, and all she did was talk about her friends to her loner boyfriend. So, that kind of pissed Mizuto off and he snapped at her. Then, he realized he was an insecure douchebag and planned to apologize. But Yume spots another girl in the chair she always sits in at the library. She takes it the wrong way and assumes Mizuto's cheating on her, so Mizuto's apology for snapping at her doesn't go well. Instead, they get really mad at each other. Then they meet again after a while and make up, but the relationship seems to have turned sour by then, with both sides questioning the other's feelings. That way, they grew apart and never got to spend Christmas or Valentine's Day together. Finally, at graduation, Mizuto asked to break up because he can't cope with his love and resentment for Yume. 2 weeks later, they learn that both of their parents are getting remarried. So, there you have it. That is how we got here. Oh, they're bickering again. They both confess that they were both ready to perform the act on the day they read the book, I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. Yume said she was ready to make hot memories, and they both struggle with their regrets and frustrations. Some days later, Yume spots a roach in her room and decides to spend the night in Mizuto's room on the same bed. While she is asleep, Mizuto gets tempted, but he assures himself that letting go of his lingering feelings is the best thing to do for their current relationship. The next day, Minaki announces that they will all be visiting his family for Obon, and he makes mention of a river. So, Uni suggests that Yume go with Mizuto to get herself a new swimsuit. They reluctantly go together, and Yume asks Mizuto for his opinion on her swimsuit. However, Mizuto gets carried away by her body and ends up complimenting it instead, leaving them both embarrassed. On their way home, they pass through the place where they had their first kiss. And it just so happens that a strong wind blows off Yume's cap within those narrow walls. Mizuto tries to catch the cap, and they end up almost kissing. But he just flicks Yume's forehead instead. During summer break, Isana visits Mizuto, and they watch movies together. Of course, Yume sticks around and watches as they act too comfortable with each other. She gets jealous, and Mizuto ends up falling asleep in her lap. Then, she listens to Isana talk about how much she would have loved a friends with benefits relationship with Mizuto. Afterward, Uni asks Yume about Isana and tells her not to fall behind Mizuto. She asks Yume to get her own boyfriend, but Yume just can't see herself dating anyone else but Mizuto. Finally, Minaki takes the family to see his family. He introduces Yume to Mizuto's grandmother, Natsume, and their second cousins, Maruka and Chikuma. During the family gathering at the river, Yume notices that Mizuto likes to be on his own and starts to realize she never really understood him all this time. She later finds him in his great-grandfather's study reading. The book he was reading is his great-grandfather's autobiography about the time he was a prisoner of war and met a woman. Mizuto believes the book shaped his personality, so he urges Yume to read it. Then, she dives deep into it and cries after reading. She begins to understand Mizuto's childhood growing up without a mom, and the reason he liked to keep to himself. Afterward, she meets Maruka, who guesses that Yume is in love with Mizuto, but Yume is unsure of her feelings, so Maruka decides to help them both by giving them alone time. There, Yume breaks down, and they act like ex-lovers for a while. Yume wishes she had invited Mizuto on Christmas and Valentine's and regrets their ever breaking up. Then she blushes hard, knowing that Mizuto considers her his first love, just as she considers him hers. The next day, they all attend a fireworks festival, and Yume seems more smitten with Mizuto. Maruka asks Mizuto to take a picture of Yume, and he easily unlocks her phone because he knows her password. Then they have a bit of fun here and there before Mizuto disappears out of sight. Maruka then reveals that Mizuto always disappears and watches the fireworks go off alone every year. So, Yume realizes that she never knew the real Mizuto while they were dating. She rushes to find him after acknowledging that she was the light that saved the lonely Mizuto, whose mother died during childbirth. Also, Mizuto recalls how he never really paid attention to anything until he read his great-grandfather's autobiography. Then, he began to see parts of life, and he eventually met Yume, with whom he fell deeply in love. Yume finally finds him, and she reveals that Mizuto knew her password because it was the date they had their first kiss. They both had the same password because it was a memorable date for them. Then Yume kisses Mizuto, and she swears to make him her lover again. Back in school, Kogure and Isana bicker, while Yume and Mizuto resolve to leave their past relationship behind and form a new, candid one. Yay! The Stepmom's Daughter is My Ex's recap has come to an end. I'm gonna keep this short. Just hit that subscribe button, like the video, share it, and I will see you in the next one. Ja ne!